This auditorium here was built as a studio originally for CNN's program capacity now, so it's a very camera-ready space. It doubles as
I've had 3 heads of state, I think a half dozen foreign ministers just in March.
Oh, really, when you start dealing with those issues, especially the issues of people, it is crucial that there is coordination.
If I may ask, Your Excellency, how much do you think that phenomenon is a reflection on?
I'd like to extend an especially warm welcome to our distinguished.
What an audience. Well, it's a pleasure and honor for me to be here this time, this day. Let me tell you that today we have an anniversary in Georgia. It's an anniversary of it's a 25-year anniversary of the referendum that was held about Georgian independence. A referendum that has clearly defined that my nation, with a history of 3,000 years, was ready to rebuild its statehood and become once more an independent member of the international family. It was a tough choice in a tough environment, and the choice was led by the first president, actually, of Georgia, whose birthday is today. And the choice has determined our independence, an independence that has to become and grow into something more. It has to grow into freedom. And there is a difference between freedom and independence, and I think that talking about these issues, it's most appropriate to be here because we are in university that celebrates the name of one of the founding fathers of this nation, a founding father that has dedicated his life, his political vision to creation of a nation that is built on the principles of freedom and principles of personal freedoms, and to create an operational state which is at the same time valuing and contributing to a workable system, workable administration, but at the same time giving possibility for each individual to develop his or her identity and serve the common goal while serving their own personal needs and goals. So I think it's the most appropriate for me to celebrate this great day for my nation, a great day for independence from the Soviet Union, a great day of the birthday of our first president, and talk about specifically how we can and how we think and how we plan to turn independence from the Soviet Union into freedom of Georgia, and what we have to do for achieving this. I think that being in DC is also a significant part of that mission, because working for a goal, in a very tough environment, in a very tough timing, you have to look for friends, for people, countries, systems who share the same values as you do, and develop their policies in the same targets as you do, and to do this in a very coordinated and targeted manner. So Georgia has identified itself as, once again, an independent nation some 25 years ago. And by doing so, we have declared very clearly and bluntly, and this was repeated by every leader since this independence, that we are, first, culturally, we are a European nation. We are a nation of that family, with that values that has created and flourished in Europe. Second, we have targeted our state development as free democratic state. Of course, it's not that easy to do this overnight because you have to introduce new systems. You have to introduce functional institutions in the state. But that has been identified by my society and by our political leaders. Third, we have identified the international alliances where we believe we belong to and to which we are committed to. And this is the European Union, and this is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And this has been a tough way and a tough work that our society and politicians had to go through to achieve the benchmarks that were set to us by these institutions. Well, now we are a country that has developed quite a successful record in this respect. We are a country that has built a relatively workable democracy, a democracy that can change the government through elections, and a democracy that is based on principles that people elect the government and they make governments serve them. We are a country that has achieved a free trade agreement and association agreement with the EU, and that's very significant for how the business and economy will be developing in Georgia. We are a country that has one of the most compatible army and military forces in the world, compatible with NATO standards. We are a country that has been given a decision by by NATO that we eventually will become one of their members. We're a country that is standing with EU and NATO troops on different battlefields and securing global security. We're a country with one of the lowest corruption levels in the region, with one of the lowest taxation levels in the region, with one of the highest scores in international ratings for doing business, and a country that is opening great economic possibilities for the investment and for doing business among the states and nations. We are a country that has located itself originally as a transit country in the region, the country that is bringing great and very interesting solutions to some of the most interesting regional projects that unite Caspian to Black Sea, projects that unite Central Asia economically to Europe and vice versa. And by doing so, we have been successful in developing some of the very impressive projects like oil and gas pipelines that start in Azerbaijan and go through Georgia and secure energy possibilities to Turkey, and other markets, but most significantly will be finally located in the north of Europe, specifically in Italy. A country that has started developing the infrastructure systems, ports, railways, highways that also serve the goal of East-West cooperation. A country that is actively reaching out to its neighbors like Turkey, Azerbaijan, Armenia, neighbors in the Caspian, for thinking, planning, and developing interesting regional projects. We are also a country that is located on one of the most interesting routes of the New Silk Road. And the New Silk Road concept is very much linked to Caucasus and engaging Caucasus and creating Caucasus as one of the most friendly, cooperative, and short routes for this global Eurasian continent partnership. At the same time, we are a country that has serious problems, problems that we have to overcome, and the problems that we are and the challenges that we are dedicated to face. And first of all, this is an occupation of my country, an occupation of my country from a very strong and powerful neighbor. 20% of our territories are occupied by the regular troops of Russian Federation. 15% of my citizens live in exile in their own nation just because they are Georgians. And they are deprived of very basic human rights to go back to their homes and go back to the places which were inhabited by their ancestors for centuries. We are a country that still has economic problems and issues. No matter that there are great opportunities, those great opportunities don't get always grasped or accomplished. So as a result of this, our GDP is not that great. Our distribution of wealth is not that great. We have a low percentage of small and medium business, which makes economy vulnerable. And as a result of that, we also have problematic level of the employment. So having all these opportunities as well as challenges on our hands, it is very important that we find a very intensive dialogue and partnership with the countries that share the same goals, share the same values, share the same targets. So why I'm here in DC and why I was here like 6 months ago is to engage our American partners, our partners and in the West, in more intensive cooperation. Engage them in showing that we have our shared, not only that we are sharing common values, not only that we are sharing common interests, but that some of the most problematic issues for NATO, for EU, for US could not be solved if we neglect and refuse to understand that the security issues and issues of a more prosperous and more stable world cannot be decided without engagement of countries like Georgia and other countries who have made their choice and made their pro-Western choice. If we look at the tragic events that are shocking us so often, if we look at Paris, at Brussels, if we look at the things happening in Turkey, if we look at this terrible terrorist attack that are shocking us and are confusing us for the possibility of the future, possibilities of the future, we can see that those issues are not solved if there is no goodwill and no cooperation, and that Europe, as well as NATO, does not acknowledge that locking themselves down into their own security umbrellas and not engaging other countries and not giving security solutions to the broader neighborhood, that not doing this is not understanding and not acknowledging the sad reality that we are in right now. So we try to engage our friends to convince them that we have to be very active and cooperative, and that Georgia, who has reached significant benchmarks on its democratic development, on development of its reforms, on development of its military forces, has to be more actively embraced by those countries and by those institutions. We know that there are tough times always in politics, whether it's Europe or whether it's NATO, but we are working very actively for this engaging dialogue. And we try to show to our friends that security of Caucasus, stability of Caucasus, stability of Georgia is really a bridge for many solutions which have to be developed in which have to be faced in Europe, as well as stability and security of the countries like Moldova and Ukraine. Those are the issues of the dialogue that we are having here, that we are having in Western capitals, and those are the issues that I will be happy to discuss with you. So basically that's my introduction. I'm ready to engage in a more interactive format. Thank you.
Re-elected or elected out of the office and holders of power. And I think that we have another thing that was and is very important is that translated into Georgian politics as black and white. And I think that there also we have.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Georgia is utilizing its resources to engage citizens within Abkhazia and South Ossetia.
You can overcome some uneasiness.